For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Sashni Medley. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss the state of South Africa's democracy. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
Why do you place so little weight on cadre deployment as one of the reasons for some of the problems in ANC rule?
See, I think there's a sort of lazy thinking. Everyone likes to say that the reason why we've got these problems is that Luthuli House decides everything and you have cadre deployment everywhere. And there is some truth in the matter that ANC has decided strategically that it wants ANC people in key positions. But it's only part of the story in trying to understand what is the problem that we face at the moment. When the ANC became the leading force in government in 1994, there was a situation of a threat to that democracy. There had been a right-wing rebellion in Bophuthatswana, as it then was, and we came to see that some of the military were not loyal. And I think in a situation like this, one mustn't be academic, and say, well, for police, let's bring the professor of criminology from University of South Africa, make that person, he knows the most about criminology and penology and policing, make him Minister of Police. Now, you don't do that in a volatile situation. Sometimes, in some of these countries, they do have professors of economics to run the economy, and because they also know about politics. But in that situation, you really want someone who you can trust, who is not secretly arming people who are going to overthrow the state. Now, Mandela, however, did keep on the General Fivers as Commissioner of Police, and I think he kept General van der Merwe from the Security Police for a while. He also kept General Meyer on. But although Fivers at the time didn't, I think, engage in conspiracies, Meyer was involved in something, and van der Merwe was involved in something. And I think you have to understand that for key security matters, in a volatile situation, you really need to have people there who you trust. Now, I personally would not have kept on these people, but then you have to weigh up. If you have them outside, is it not more dangerous? They may then get involved in the conspiracies that you fear they may really get involved in and have the skills to be able to cause real problems. But remember that a lot of whites, because of the laws of South Africa before 1994, they had guns. A lot of whites had dynamite from the mines, so they were capable of causing a lot of trouble. So there had to be a balance between security through inclusiveness and security through having people who were trustworthy. But there's another reason why you needed to have ANC people in positions. ANC pioneered with COSATU and SACP the Reconstruction and Development Program. Now, it was important to have people in those driving those ministries who understood the goals, who were actually empathetic to those who were meant to benefit from it. So it was very important to have people there. Now, obviously what I think we've witnessed is that very many people have not been up to the jobs, that they have sometimes been there because they support the ANC, but not really had been trained adequately for the work. But now, the problem to me that we have at the moment is not cadre deployment per se, but that the reason why people are put in the position is not simply because they're ANC, but because they are loyal primarily not to the Constitution, not to the ANC, but to President Zuma. Now that's a very different thing from cadre deployment. It means that the primary loyalty of this person is not to the law of the land, necessarily, not to the Constitution, but to a person to whom he looks or she looks for benefits, and to whom Zuma looks for loyalty and support. And that may explain why people like Bathabile Dlamini, who has been messing up this job for a number of years, is kept in that position. Because Bathabile Dlamini is part of a patronage network. Patronage means a patron-client relationship. The patron is the more powerful person who is able to provide certain benefits to the client in exchange for support. Now, the client in this case is expected, maybe not primarily to deliver on her portfolio of social development. Maybe she's expected primarily to deliver on, as Women's League president, on Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma as a future president of the ANC. So we're dealing with something which explains, let's say, the people who are called by who the EFF called Gupta appointees, the Zwane and Van Rooyen. They are there because they are accountable to Zuma, and some would say accountable to the Gupta. So they're not, it's not like the ANC strategy and tactics document saying we must have people in the mining industry because it's a key transformational position. The reason why those people are there is not to do with transformation. So I feel that we need to disaggregate this notion of cadre deployment and distinguish between appointing ANC people for strategic reasons, which means that they are the best people to drive something because they infuse, well, not anymore, but they used to be infused by certain liberatory, emancipatory ideas, and having them there happen to be ANC, but they are mainly linked to this person.
You speak of a legitimacy crisis. Some might say that it is exaggerated, others may say it is old hat.
Yeah, you see, we used to say the apartheid regime was illegitimate. And I used to also argue that it was illegal. And we were not talking just about the government, but we were talking about the state, that it did not represent the people of South Africa. And the true representative of the people of South Africa was the ANC, or the ANC and the PAC, according to the UN and the Organization of African Unity, as it then was. So we contested the right of that government to rule. Now it becomes much more complicated to claim that in a democratic system of post-apartheid South Africa, where the ANC is the elected government and the state operates under a constitution that is democratic. But I think things have happened in the last 10 years or so where people have come to view the ANC as not representing in the sense of, in their actions, in their conduct, in the way they behave towards the masses, they are not representing the people of South Africa. So the notion of illegitimacy is not because they're not being voted there, but because they conduct themselves in a way that repudiates the mandate that they receive, that doesn't act for the poorest of the poor, making a better life for all, but making a better life for themselves. So that is a problem. Now, some people say, however, it's obvious. On social media, someone has said, well, why don't I just say it straight that it's obvious? It's not so simple to argue illegitimacy when it is an elected government you're talking about. But what I find is a paradox in South Africa is that many of the people who engage in protests against ANC councillors are actually people who voted ANC. What they are really doing is lamenting the fact that the vote that they used to achieve X or Y has not proved an effective way of realizing their social and emancipatory objectives in South Africa. So it is a problem. It's complex to use the word illegitimacy in regard to an elected government, but I think it is true, and I think the problem is it's affecting the state as a whole. Maybe not the judiciary, but it's affecting state-owned enterprises. It's affecting a number of departments of state where people don't trust them. People view Home Affairs, for example, as totally corrupt. People don't trust the police. They know that, we know habitually that when you are stopped by a traffic cop, that the person could well ask for a bribe. Things have seeped in for a number of reasons, which I think contribute to a sense that we need to rebuild the spirit that motivated us in demanding our freedom and the ethics that motivated the founding leaders of South Africa.
Thank you, Professor. That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's policy about the state of South Africa's democracy.